teacher does as their first language. We have students who chronically underachieve for reasons that are so complex that they're hard to understand. We have kids from different cultures, and different cultures don't see the world the same way, don't take in learning and process it the same way always. We have kids from very different economic backgrounds, and economics matters in learning. We have students of both genders, and that doesn't sound like much of a statement, but for the first 20 years of my teaching, a lot of research was done on how schools fail boys. How schools fail girls. That was during my first 20 years of teaching. In the last 10 years or so, there's done a huge amount of research on how schools fail boys. I think we just ran out of choices. If we can't get it right for girls and we can't get it right for boys, somehow we're not honoring either of the sets of differences that they bring with them. And we have kids who have very different degrees of motivation to learn, very different interests. They come with very different skills. You'll have to decide if that sounds like your classroom, but it sounds like many classrooms that I see around the world these days. There are kids from at least 45 countries in state schools in Greece right now. It's an increasing number of immigrants in Greek state schools, and that's likely to continue to grow. There's a decreasing number of native Greek schools in state schools in Greece. Right now, at least 10% of the students in Greek state schools are not native Greek, and that number is likely to grow. The numbers look a little different in my country, but it's exactly the same story. This is the first year in our history where Caucasian children, white children, are the minority in schools, and where kids from other cultures are the majority. The world is just moving everywhere. Around the world, autism spectrum disorder diagnosis has grown rapidly, as has the diagnosis of learning disabilities and emotional problems. That may be because we're doing a better job of diagnosis. It may be because there are more problems, but nonetheless, we have more students sitting in front of us with those issues. While there are some special schools in Greece for students with severe learning problems, most kids who have learning needs are in general education classrooms in your country and in mine. Most schools in Greece don't have enough teachers with expertise in special education, meaning that students in those schools are largely dependent on regular classroom teachers for their success. There's been a sharp rise in poverty in Greece since austerity measures were first implemented in 2010, and you know that better than I do. Right now, almost a third of Greeks are living on less than 60% of the national median income. In the same time, not only are more people living with less money, but the gap between people who have some money and people who have less has grown by about 24%, which means the learning gap is growing because economics impact learning. Poverty in any country predicts a higher dropout rate, poorer school performance, and a greater likelihood of developing some sort of a behavioral disorder than would be the case for students who have more resources at home. And students of poverty need much more support from their teachers and from their schools if they have a chance to succeed academically. So when we look at the kids around us, in many places, we see them looking pretty different than they did 5 or 10 or 15 years ago. And yet, almost all of us still teach a class as though all those kids were just alike. So if I were going to base my teaching on who comes to my classroom, I'd have to learn to be more flexible. I don't know how often Greek readers read Charlie Brown cartoons. I assume most things make it around the world. But Charlie Brown, the little brown-headed fellow with one curl on his forehead, is not very good in school. He keeps making the same mistakes, and he doesn't realize he's making them, and it just is hard for him because school is very tough. His little friend, Linus, is a very quick learner, very imaginative. Linus wants to tell the teacher every day how she can do a better lesson. The teacher almost never appreciates it, but Linus is usually right. His idea is better than what the teacher's thinking. So you would think that Charlie and Linus don't have too much in common, but in fact, both of them experience school as a problem. And so they're talking about that one day, and Lina says to Charlie, our teacher has an interesting theory. She says teaching is like bowling. All you can do is roll that bowling ball down the middle of the alley and hope you touch most of the seats. And Charlie, who doesn't usually understand much in school, understands this because he experiences it every day. And he says, wow, she must be a lousy bowler. And what's happening in many schools is we're still teaching as though we could roll the ball down the middle of the alley and touch all the students. And more we have students in the two alleys, in the two gutters, and not so many students in the middle. So again, if I were to answer my question, what would I do in my class? If I looked at the demographic realities of the kids in the classroom, and I think I would have to teach with the knowledge that gender and culture, experience, economic status, language, adult support, and a myriad of other factors shape student learning. And those differences require my active attention. I can't just pretend they don't matter. I have to do something about it. So what if we move beyond numbers and we start looking at actual human beings? If I did that,